Good evening, everyone. This is Ceren İskit, and you are watching What's New, What's News. Tonight, we delve into a range of pressing issues that have been making headlines in Turkey, each of which warrants our attention and reflection. From the prolonged legal battle surrounding in the Çorlu Train Accident to the tragic mine disaster in Erzincan İliç, the alarming surge in femicides, challenges to press freedom, exemplified by the case of journalist Erdem Gül, and the political discourse surrounding the upcoming local elections in Istanbul, there is much to unpack and discuss. Now let me invite my colleague. Oh, sorry about that. Hello, this is me again. Yes, some technical issues happening during the live broadcast, but yes, let me invite Eylül Deniz Yaşar. Hello, Eylül, how are you?
Thank you so much, Ceren. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for joining me today again, because we have a lot of things to dig in, and of course you are following the recent events and incidents closely. That's why I invited you today. And by the way, I should remind our audience they can drop their questions to the chat box before we dig in. I would like to remind that one too. Before we start with the Çorlu train accident, I would like to show a video at the end of the trial today, because it postponed again, and it was 19th of time, and it's the trial kept adjourned, and today, obviously, we were expecting the verdict must be announced, but nothing happened again. So let's show this video first, and then we will start our discussion.
İnceleyecek bir tane evran yok. Bir tane geçerli sebebin yok. Yazıklar olsun hepinize. Senin de çocuğun var. Senin de annen baban var.
Çektirdiklerini çekmeden bu dünyadan gitme.
Gitmeyin, evet.
Çektirdiklerini çekmeden bu dünyadan gitme.
Allah belanızı versin.
Well, I think the scene shows everything, since it has been 6 years now, and they're seeking for justice for years. And today, the families of victims continue to seek justice. And again, the hearing was postponed. And also, Republican People's Party Chairman Özgür Özel was monitoring the trial as well. And Mustafa''s and other families who lost their loved ones await a verdict. The trial has been postponed to April 25th. How do you evaluate the process?
Well, Çorlu Train massacre has been quite one of the less seen topics in Turkish public, I guess, for a long while now. So, because it's been now 6 years and the justice struggle is still continuing in quite a silent manner, actually, because the families have been calling for a wider, social support for their campaign. But I sadly say this, but they have been kind of left alone in their struggle by wider opposition circles, because this trial has never been considered as a social massacre in the first place. But the thing that now, also behind bars, MP and also lawyer Can Atalay has once wrote an article about this. He was quite a vocal advocate of this ongoing trial as well, as he was calling this a social murder, and he was explaining the reasons why from a let's say lawyer's point of view. On July 8, 2080, this fatal railway accident happened. But by the time, one of the unseen facts has been that it was a train owned by State Railways of the Republic of Turkey. And this was not a private company. So this was the official railways of the state. So that come with the construction of the rails was also belonging to the state railways, and not only the transportation operations that meant, but also the maintenance belonged to the state railways. So that directly implies that the responsibles of this so-called accident has always been public officials, from the bottom to the top. That was one of the biggest handicaps of the trial, because we know that Turkish justice system has never been so willing to put public officials on the defendant scene. As we are seeing this mostly in political cases, such as the ISIS bombings, 10 October, Suruç massacre trials as well. So we have seen a constant systematic lack of putting public officials on the defendant chair. But in that case, it was a whole process of bringing public officials to the justice system, which the justice system has been failing to do for over 6 years now.
Yes, and we should include in 2022, actually, they arrested an official from the technical side of the state railway. However, in 1 month, they released him again. This is only kind of a showing off, or how do you evaluate that one too?
This is actually something to be evaluated by the families of the victims, actually. As we know, 25 people lost their lives, and not to even count those who were left wounded. But now, even after 6 years, what we see with all the irregularities in the trial, as you just mentioned, it just shows states' reluctancy to admit any wrongdoing by their own institutions, to admit any responsibility whatsoever. And now, when we first hear the words of Mrs. Mısra Öz, we know that she has been the most leading figure in leading this struggle as a mother who lost a 9-year-old boy, a son, and also her husband in the social massacre. Actually, we know that her 9-year-old son Oğuz Ardasel and her husband Hakan Sel was one of the two victims, two of these victims that lost their lives in Çorlu train accident. And she has been ever since one of the most vocal advocates of this trial. And we have seen her every time being so brave. And because she didn't have any political attachments whatsoever, she's just a mother. And she has been calling everyone in the society to become a part of this trial, to defend the right, not only for her own child, but everyone who lost their lives. And she has been calling everyone to be a part of this trial, including President Erdogan himself. So she has never really distanced herself. Like, she was calling everyone to take an active stance. And I think today what the CHP's new leader, Özgür Özel, was saying, he was actually calling Mr. Erdogan to come and show up in the trial. So they are actually inviting the president himself. But I highly doubt that President Erdogan would even show up there. They know it. Still, there is this call, and Mısra Öz has been most of the time she has been quite a lonely figure, trying to make a case, for these people. And now seeing her like this, just showing up, for justice, it just shows how an ordinary person, if you are just being subject to any kind of injustice in Turkey, it just shows the level to which you can actually bring up your level of, resistance and your bravery as a woman and as a mother. And in a sense, she's a very strong figure. She's not afraid of any backlash coming from her cry out. And actually, but it also shows that we need to hear her more. We need to follow her case and the Çorlu massacre case as a whole, because this trial seems to be and they even postpone it even after the elections. That also tells.
This is Özgür Özel's tweet I saw, and he was telling how coincident is that you postponed the next hearing to after the local elections. So when you read the subline of that one, I think it says a lot of things.
I think so, and I think people should be evaluating this with their own independent critical mind, I guess. But even in that sense, even that trial is politicized somehow in the current politicized environment of the justice. I think this ongoing trial cannot be separated, cannot be independently evaluated from this very political atmosphere that the whole country and the justice system is going through. And now we will just have to wait and see what will happen in the 25th April. But I want to make a last remark, again, quoting from the book of Mrs. Mısra Öz, because she authored a book recently on her son and the justice struggle that she has been waging for 5 years. And the title of the book is always 9 years old. It's an ode to her son. And it's a fairy tale of an angel, the second part of the title. In the last remarks of this book, Mrs. Öz was making a last note. She was saying that do not let the justice be crushed under the rails. And from the first day till the end, and today as well, all she was saying that she just wants all the responsibles sitting on the higher chairs of the state railways to be brought to justice. And I think as a mother who lost her son and all the family members of the victims, they have any right to bring this demand to the foreground. And we'll just have to be following them even more closely.
Yes, yeah, that's the truth. I mean, all the disasters in Turkey, when it happens, all the officials are hiding behind the trials, and I mean, state obviously protecting them as well, but there must be a responsible for those accidents and also the disasters. Speaking about that, actually on February 13th, we had a horrific mine disaster occurred in Erzincan, İliç, and efforts are still underway to reach 9 miners trapped under the cyanide-laden soil. Besides the cyanide threats, these 9 miners are buried underground. Search and rescue operations have also been halted. And what's your thoughts on it? Because the process is, I mean, the whole story of this actually very horrifying because of the environment, because of the 9 miners are still under the ground and nobody can reach them, and now they stop searching and rescuing them. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, this whole crisis with İliç, I think, lies on 2 main pillars. The first is the environmental issue, obviously, especially when we are talking about now a climate crisis going on around the world. It's a global issue. It's not just about one city, one district, one mine. It's not only about Euphrates river anymore, because even when we are talking about just one river now, which is there is the now huge risk that the environmental activist has been warning that the cyanide is already mixing with the waters of the Euphrates River. So in that case, what's going to happen is that with this river going through a few countries, all the living organisms living in these countries will be affected by it. That includes us as well, because this river has been feeding many of it's an agricultural source, it's a water source. That means all the products that we are eating in the west of the country, and these products which are also sent to the other parts of the world, they will be also contaminated, and this can create years and years of contaminated agricultural products. That
it's like Chernobyl happened almost 40 years now, and still the effects of it still happening in the Black Sea side. So this is another disaster for Turkey.
It's a huge risk even not only for the people in Turkey, but as we say, like climate crisis and climate change is real and it's happening. And this kind of an accident happening in this kind of an era should not be something only the local people or the people at only Turkish national agenda should be discussing. This is something that is actually that is something relevant to all the world population and all the living thing. This whole thing is very important, the environmental thing. But nevertheless, the second issue is also very important, and it's about the workers' rights and how the workers in Turkey, in 21st century of Turkey, is still working under such working conditions where they just have to face death in order to make both ends, meet in the end of a month. And Turkey, in that sense, has a very, very ugly record of mining workers' working conditions. We have seen many mining accidents before, whether it be a coal mine or in this case a gold mine. Definitely the working class has a serious issue of facing that, and unions have been trying to give voice to that for years. And now with İliç, we have seen Başaran Aksu, a very determined working class leader. He has been also representing the independent mining workers union in Turkey. He has been just warning us about the conditions, working conditions of the mining workers for years now. But one part of it is definitely how the big capitalist companies are making their way so easily with the governments. So when we are discussing the climate and the environment topic of this subjects, we should be also taking into consideration the financial relationships and the political relationships in the background, lying in the background of this horrible disasters. And when we are looking at the Ana Gold Mining Company, we have been seeing years-long struggle between the environmental activists and the Ana Gold Mining Company, whether it be local activists, whether it be a national activist, who has been trying to shut down this place for a long while now because of the huge risk of cyanide and the horrible effects that it has been producing for the nature for a long while now. But none of these voices have been heard until this disaster was happening, which then again shows us a certain state role that is happening in all this. So it's very unlikely just to believe a state official coming out and saying, well, we don't know anything about this, like it just happened, it's an accident. But I don't think people are buying this anymore, especially environmental activists and the people who are much more into the background of the story, which goes years and years back. This has not happened in one day. This has a huge history that we have to also make the wider audiences know that İliç has been a topic in Turkey for a while now, for years now.
Years, because former prosecutor İlhan Cihaner, and also he was an MP in the parliament from Republican People's Party. He has been battling and finding a way of closing that mine factory. But eventually what happened? They sent him to the prison as well. And he was prosecuted just because he was looking for something to close that mine factory as well, which is very important. And probably we will speak in details with him for the coming weeks, because he is the direct person who would answer those questions as well.
I hope you do. I will watch that program myself as well, because now this whole point is with İliç now, as you say, 9 workers are still under the ground, and the search and rescue has been stopped. We have been hearing families, on the media as well, like the families are devastated, just waiting for any news from their loved ones. On the other hand, journalists and environmental activists have been banned to enter İliç, which is another scandal. And we have seen that just 10 days ago, I've been following that environmental newspaper, Yeşil Gazete's journalists, as well as other journalists and photojournalists. They have been made waiting out there for hours just to enter İliç. And they have been asked special permissions as if it was like a zone of special like a special zone, you know what I mean? Like you need a passport or visa to, even for a local journalist, it was very hard to reach. And that even shows that if the journalists and in that independent environmental activists and researchers are prevented to enter the field, how
Yes.
is any field investigation is going to be held? Because journalism is also part of documenting the facts, if there are any, which we have been seeing very critical video footages from İliç, from the river now. We have been seeing dead fishes on the shores. And how are we going to evaluate and document all these if we as journalists are not allowed to enter there? If we need a special permission to document this, I mean, this is the basic journalism. You just have to go there and see it with your own. And is it smelling? Because we know from the journalists who managed to went there in the first 2-3 days of the accident, there was the horrible smell of the cyanide all around. So even just being there gives you a certain kind of data that you cannot acquire from just, sitting in your desk in Istanbul. You just have to go there and see it with their own eyes. And now all the video footages that I have been seeing, they've been horrible. So is it really something now?
Yeah, the officials even warned the reporters and journalists while they were covering that incident in Erzincan İliç. They didn't even warn them to wear masks during the time when they visited there. So I think this is kind of, I don't know, but the situation is very very frustrating for me because of the health of people living around that area and also our neighbor countries as well. So this is kind of a huge environmental issue that we need to raise the awareness more and more and report.
So we'll just have to continue to follow İliç as closely as we can. New developments can happen anytime right now. The more the area will be open to new visitors, and I think it's very crucial for an independent investigation to be carried out. Also, journalists who are willing to attend any part of this investigation is also very crucial for these facts to be documented. But in an environment where the media is being so suppressed and where we are not even allowed to enter the borders of İliç, it seems to be going to be a hard process, but especially for the families who are still waiting to hear from the 9 workers.
Yeah, and I want to give another actually information about it because workers had reportedly raised concern about the pre-existing cracks in the area before the disaster unfolded. But however, Cengiz Yalçın and one of the involved parties, Demirci, claimed the ignorance of these cracks until 3 days after the incidents occurred. This is another issue that must have been reported, I think.
Exactly, Ceren.
Yes. Well, a lot of things to talk, and we have a very tense subjects to talk. Yesterday was a dark day for women. 7 women were murdered within 24 hours in Turkey. The 8th also lost her battle for life. There is much to be said about this. We cannot simply view these news as numbers. The reason for the increase in femicide is quite clear, I guess, but let's hear your thoughts. What do you think on that?
I mean, we are also 2 women sitting here and debating on femicides still. But I know you and I know myself, we have been participating and documenting from the women's protests for a long while now. And we also as women journalists have been subjected to all sorts of violence coming from either police officials and sometimes even civilian men on the street who were not quite happy with women demanding their rights. And now that this happening like just in one day, 7 women. First of all, as a woman, you do not really feel safe to live in this country each and every day. These are not just numbers. These are our friends. These are the women. These are any woman is looking at their woman friends right now who could be a victim of male violence any moment. And the fact that if you are seeking justice, further justice for any woman being subjected to any kind of violence. The struggle that you will have will not be the easiest one, especially in Turkey. Now that we are seeing a rapist is going out so freely just because he wears a tie and he wears a nice jacket and a suit on a court, it will be very easy for them to just walk out of good manners. And this is the country that we are living in right now. And now, last year, we have seen huge protests coming from women because of the cancellation of the Istanbul Convention just one night, just like that, by a presidential decree. You just wake up and you see, as the woman of a whole nation, that all your rights that you have gained at the end of very long struggles are just wiped out and just being taken away from your hands in one night. It wasn't the happiest day of the woman in Turkey. And the feminists that we have been interviewing ever since, and all the women who have been taking it to the streets ever since, have been telling the same thing. If you are canceling the Istanbul Convention just one night, if you're still making the killers of the woman walk so freely in the country like this, or a raper of a woman walk so freely in a country like this, if the justice system do not take extreme steps to stop this kind of femicide and misogynistic crimes in general, the killing of women will only be increased, because this will set an example for all the men out there waiting to get revenge from their ex-wives or ex-girlfriends or someone who are just, some woman they just platonically, fall in love and everything. It's just, even on the media, we have seen many shows, TV series who have been also banned just because of the messages that they were giving in terms of women being subjected to femicides and all kinds of crimes against women. So this is a whole system now in Turkey, media in one hand, justice system on the other hand, and the general political discourse of the AKP government and President Erdogan himself, and the cancellation of Istanbul Sözleşmesi. I mean, this has been going on a continuous level, and now up to yesterday, we have seen that one day 7 women being killed like that is not just about a random day. It wasn't random at all.
No. Well, they're taking the courage after the Istanbul Convention withdrawal. Of course, I think this is only the beginning. I mean, the numbers are a lot anyways. I mean, the femicide is the reality of Turkey. But I think yesterday's number was very, very extremely concerning because of the situation now. And also now we have been trying to find out 6,284 article of women in Turkey, and this is another issue of Turkey that they couldn't even. They always convinced the woman who was facing domestic violence, when they report to the police station, the police officers only convincing them to go back their home, the place that they are facing domestic violence. And I mean, this is the truth of Turkey. And even with that one, we have such problems because of the conservative parties, far-right political parties, and they're actually campaigning on that article as well now to withdraw that one. So the situation is very, very extremely concerning for women in Turkey.
It's alarming. And if you remember last year, again, we were following very closely the trial opened against the We Will Stop Femicides platform, one of the most vocal feminist platform in the country that is dedicated to defend the rights of the women who have been subjected to femicides, And now, when you're considering 7 femicides in one day in a country, and when you're taking into consideration the fact that only 1 year ago, the biggest feminist organization that is dedicated to defend the trials of the women who were killed by men, they were actually facing the closure.
Exactly. Exactly.
This is such a contrast, and this is such a continuum of a systematic oppression of women in country. And feminist has been warning us for a long while now. In every interview we make with them on the streets, 8 March is still approaching now, and we see 7 women being killed in one day on the eve of the 8 March. I mean, it's only a week now, and this is how we enter 8 March as the female journalist living in this country. And I know what I will see in a week coming from now. I will see police violence targeting women, targeting myself and yourself and any journalist trying to follow the events, especially in Istanbul. I hope not. I definitely hope not. But but now this happening ahead of the 8th March, on the eve of the 8th March, I'm just saying that this 8th March will be another special one. Because now in the beginning of the year, we have seen such femicides in the increased number. And if women will see police barricades in front of their faces, and no one will be that peaceful from that on. Women are angry. Women do not want to be killed. Women do not want to be
tired of the dealing. Yeah. Yes. They're tired.
So this 8 March will be something very specific to follow. Even the women who have been, not so willing to go into 8 March, because I've been talking to some friends yesterday, they were all like, we have to do something on the 8th March. After yesterday's events, after yesterday's woman killings, people, now all the women around me, they're just waiting for 8 March to come and just to go out there and to demand justice for all the women that are being killed. Women in Turkey are saying enough, so we will just see. It's such a sad day.
It is a sad day, unfortunately, but hopefully stay safe. By the way, hopefully,
everyone, we will try to do our best to document what's happening on the streets. I mean, but after femicides, I'm really waiting really massive attendance, especially in Istanbul. Taksim being banned to women now. And now with this horrible incidents are still continuing to happen. So we will be very careful and very, on the street on the 8th March. And I think the women will be very vocal this time as well. And they demand justice. We should be all demanding justice because we face an increasing male violence each and every day as all the women living in this country.
Yeah, on streets, in our houses, in our workplaces, everywhere actually. Now we're facing violence, unfortunately, and hopefully these need to be sorted immediately. There is no other way to deal with it. There has to be something to be done. In this part, and also hopefully we will gain back Istanbul Convention. This is what I'm hoping for. Well, speaking about journalists, of course, Turkey has been failing in the terms of press freedom for quite some time now. We witnessed the latest example in journalist Erdem Gül, who was sentenced to 5 years in prison for his journalistic activities. If his sentence is upheld, he will go to prison. Today, another journalist, Dicle Müftüoğlu, she was released finally after 300 days, almost a year, for her journalistic coverage. And also, we heard another good news. Well, we're now celebrating those news after the trials, but Sedat Yılmaz, editor of Mesopotamia Agency, he was acquitted from the case that he has been facing, and he was also behind bars for a long time. Before that, let me show the video, the statement that Erdem Gül made, and then we will continue.
Öğrendiniz değil mi arkadaşlar?
Evet.
Tamam.
Sizden de duyalım.
Tamam, şöyle 5 yıl ceza veriyor. Benim burada siz gazeteci arkadaşlarıma söyleyeceğim şudur. Dosyada sadece eylem olarak bir tane haber var. Dolayısıyla bu ceza direkt habere cezadır. Bu kadar.
Well, this is kind of a target to journalists, basically. And this is kind of a clear message that whether you are involved in any corruption news or any kind of related anything from the state or any intelligence services, which was his trial was about that one as well, then you will face prison sentence, whatever you can get, actually, isn't it?
Definitely. And if we remember the particular news story that now he's been facing charges for, it has been one of the turning points actually in Turkish free press struggle, because we have to remember the name of Can Dündar, because they have been prosecuted in the same trial together as
And
colleagues.
as well.
Exactly. And now this whole thing goes way back to 2015, I think it was the year, with the Turkish National Intelligence trucks trial, as you know, with the MİT tırları, the MİT trucks trial. So this has been a huge story. It has been one of the biggest stories that Turkish journalistic history has seen in the last decade. And it has created a huge fuss among the government as well. So it hurt everyone, who were involved with the story. And now Can Dündar has to live in exile. So everybody's paying the price for making journalism. And Erdem Gül in here is facing now jail time. This was not unexpected. We were expecting that he would eventually the court would rule. I mean, I'm not saying to normalize it, but sadly, after such a big trial, the state would definitely show a certain stick to show on top of journalists' heads, if you know what I mean.
And this is the third time actually they started all over again the trial against Erdem Gül, and also of course Can Dündar as well, but because he is in exile he cannot face any prosecution now, but another way of prosecution actually being exiled, but this is another discussion, of course. Yes, you go on.
But the main discussion is still should be the state is giving all the journalists a very clear message that we all know from another former journalist, Ahmet Şık, was quoting this so well. If you touch, you are going to burn. There are some taboo topics that the Turkish government and different segments of the Turkish state do not want the journalists to ever touch upon. And by such sentences giving to strong journalistic figures such as Erdem Gül himself and such as Can Dündar himself, we see even German journalists being detained in Turkey, being arrested for over a year in case of Deniz Yaşar's case. I mean, this has been a clear message for all the journalists now for a long while now. If you touch at certain topics, you are going to pay the price for it. So journalism isn't free at all, isn't free of charge. In this sense, I'm using free in such a context. If you want to do journalism, do it, but be ready to pay the price for it anytime. We can knock on your door any morning, even after this speech you and I are making. There is a high risk that every time you're speaking about certain facts in Turkey, as a local journalist, as a journalist making news in Turkey, you are facing a certain kind of punishment. And this is not normal. This is not normal.
Yes, and also we should remind our audience that we have a new disinformation bill accepted, and now even the information you get, even the sources that you get was true. If state doesn't like it, that means they can how do you call it? I forgot the word, but they can accuse you giving wrong information to the public, and you may face 1 to 3 years in jail. So this is another threat for journalists.
Erdem was the recent example of this. He was just, I mean, it wasn't such a long time, but he was still detained. Like his home was raided. He was detained just like that, just because of a story that he wrote, and he was exactly on trial. The reason that why he was detained was this exact disinformation bill that you are referring to right now.
Yes, it's kind of a way of suppression as well, and intimidation for journalists. And of course, the numbers are huge. 42 journalists in Turkey over the last year was under detention now and remain behind bars, which is a huge number, and it is alarming for all of us, basically. Well, we are coming to an end now, and a funny story about our local elections. We are seeing such funny moments of campaigns. For instance, in Ankara, Batman hosted Erdal Beşikçioğlu in one neighborhood here, or in Istanbul, some funny things happening as well. And the latest video was about an AI-made Game of Thrones for Istanbul, Game of Istanbul. And I asked permission to show that one. So let's watch that one first, and then we will come back to our discussion.
I did everything for you. But
Sorry about that, but I think something. I need.
I did everything for you. But not this time.
Ay Ekrem İmamoğlu.
Ay Taylan Yıldız.
Ay Azmi Karamahmutoğlu.
I am Buğra Kavuncu.
You beat him once, you will beat him again.
We will send all the White Walkers. I'm waiting on the third road.
An earthquake is coming.
Well, I wanted to show this because this is kind of trend topic in Turkey's X now, and another one is the earthquake is seriously coming to Istanbul. By the way, this is not something to make a joke about it, but of course this is now with all parties, especially ruling party, focusing heavily on the coming Istanbul earthquake, and the anticipated. They now turned into a political discourse among the candidates, and despite having the example of the Kahramanmaraş earthquake just a year ago. How do you evaluate these discourses? Because I don't, from my point of view, this is something you can use as a campaign, because this is the reality. Earthquake is definitely coming, probably a couple of months or a couple of years. We don't know, but a huge disaster we expecting now, aren't we?
Well, everything in Turkey is sadly and tragically turning into a matter of politics. whether it may be local or general elections in the end of the day. And people on the street are not really happy about this fact, but on the day of the election, somehow the general tendency of our people in the wider nation comes to be a quite emotional one, where they still want to believe the promises that any mayoral candidate would be willing to just give out freely. And in the end of the day, people do not really weigh the level of reality of this promises at the end of the day, and they somehow just want to believe in the fact that these promises are just being given to them, you know. And I hope this will not be the case in this election, but there's no certain indication in my hand. Like, I'm still, you know, asking each and every citizen that I see on the street for days now, as part of my like election psychology story that I've been working on. I mean, everyone in Istanbul, especially, I mean, they are still talking about, you know, İmamoğlu and Kurum dialectics, who would win in the end of the day, because at the end of the day, we know that it's either İmamoğlu or Kurum who will take the victory in the 31st March. When we are coming to Murat Kurum, I mean, he has a very controversial record of urban transformation, and you know, he was Turkey's environment and climate change minister between 2018 and 2023, which is the year of the devastating Maraş-centered 6 February earthquakes. And he was also elected in the parliament, you know, from Istanbul. But I mean, he's a very close ally to Erdogan, and it wasn't coincidental that he was being brought against İmamoğlu, who's such a popular figure throughout the country, not just in Istanbul anymore. But now, 2023 earthquakes killed, in official numbers, more than 50,000 people. But I mean, we know that this is only the official numbers, and left millions of people homeless. I mean, we are still suffering from 6 February. It's not just a past historical event. And we are talking about this incident. Murat Kurum was still the minister by the time of the quake. So this is full of question marks, how the wider society would consider him to be one of the responsibles of the horrible disaster, and how he was managing the quake. And he was, you know, that when we were making all these stories in Hatay and Maraş especially, all the lawyers that we have been speaking to were talking about this zoning piece that were also a part of Murat Kurum's wider project. So we know that many buildings that were built after the zoning piece ended up being leveled to the ground like this, killing thousands of people. And we know Murat Kurum's signature was under that zoning peace processes. So this
and
is
also Lütfü Savaş as well. Lütfü Savaş is another discussion.
Yes, as well. We in the previous broadcast, I think we also debated about him. But I mean, Lütfü Savaş is still a mayor, you know. But he was in Murat Kurum's case, he was the minister. He is the highest one, you know.
Exactly.
The only highest authority would be left as President Erdogan after him, after the ministerial level. So even though Ankara is like the Turkish capital and the official, you know, but Istanbul, as we know, is the cultural heart of Turkey, is the political heart of Turkey right now as well. So this is also an economic center. And when it comes to Istanbul mayor, we are talking about big money.
Yes.
We are talking about huge trade, you know, more than 45% of the country's entire tax income, you know. It's also almost the fifth. Almost the half of Turkey is all foreign trade. So we are talking about huge money. When it comes to Murat Kurum, we also have to remember the biggest mega project of Mr. Erdogan that we know, the Kanal Istanbul, which was recently cancelled by a Turkish court, by an Istanbul court, you know, after Ekrem İmamoğlu's long fight against it. Of course, like all the environmental activists as well. But now Murat Kurum has been defending Kanal Istanbul ever since. He was very like, one time I know that this is quoting from Murat Kurum. He said that Kanal Istanbul is really a vision project, a project that will make Turkey a leading country and add a brand to the value of our Istanbul. This is the project that he was campaigning for, and the project is cancelled by a Turkish court.
But I mean, from the observations as we have seen from the recent election, general election, and now we are seeing the similarities in local elections as well. Every time the ruling party, especially, they are campaigning either the car they made, the planes that they made, the investment that they did, like the third bridge in Istanbul, it was another matter for that. And those investments, so-called investments, I would say, they won. I mean, they won the election. They got the victory again. So I think this time, if the Channel Istanbul would be on the table, I'm not sure what's going to happen next. I think the election will be neck to neck anyways, but this is another concern.
It's in the end of the day, there is the understanding of democracy also in the past general presidential elections and also now is just considered on the actual voting process in itself. It's a dangerous evaluation of democracy, I think, because when we are talking about election safety, it's not only my physical safety, taking a step to the ballot box, putting up my vote in the ballot box and going back to my home. This only takes like an hour or two, right? But yes, all election equality and safety has to be measured. And I think it's measured like in throughout we are seeing elections. It's called about how the all candidates are they equal in their race? Because we are talking about a race of a month now. So are we going to see all the mayors making their campaigns equally on the TV when we open them? So this has to be evaluated as well. So we are talking about the very long process of campaign equality to reach the potential, voters in everywhere. Are they safe and making campaigns in? Because I remember the previous local elections by the time I was in Ankara, and I've been seeing like some, even some Kurdish candidates, or some CHP candidates in some neighborhoods, they were being like physically attacked as well by the voters. I mean, when we're talking about democracy and the election safety in general in Turkey, now there is this sense that because Mr. President Erdogan, he is just very happy to just go out in the end of the day and say, it was a very democratic election. Everyone just went out there and voted, and he's talking about big numbers, more than 80% of the people, turned out in the election boxes. But is it only about that? So if you are taking this as the only indicator of democracy, we can say that this elections will be a democratic one. But we are just going to see on the street and on the media campaign how is Murat Kurum is going to race against Mr. İmamoğlu and other candidates as well. As in the previous broadcast, we were talking about the DEM Party candidate, Meral Danış Bektaş. So we will be just seeing how equal this race is going to go. We are talking about strong state propaganda tools when we are talking about Erdogan promoted Murat Kurum. So are we going to see big state money flowing for Murat Kurum's own personal, political campaign? Because this is citizens' taxes, it's not just about government money that we are talking about here. Are the citizens going to make a problem about this or not? In the end of the day, it still comes to collective psychology of the voters in general in Turkey. And to repeat what I'm saying beforehand, we are a Middle Eastern mindset country. There are some very controversial facts about Mr. Kurum, just as much as İmamoğlu as well. I mean, if we are looking at the both candidates, we'll see many pros and cons at the same time. But people are generally voting in quite political, ideological motives rather than what they have done past or they have not done. Because in a rational mindset, you will be just considering the pros and cons on each candidate and who will serve the city and the population of the city in the end of the day. But in Turkey, people tend to look at the party, tend to look at the political motives and who is endorsing who. And if you are just coming to that one, many people are still going to vote for Murat Kurum just because he's endorsed by the president himself. It's very early to talk about anything, but we are already seeing some polls. Some polls are showing Murat Kurum being slightly ahead, while some other polls are showing İmamoğlu as ahead. So this is a neck-to-neck situation. This is on the knife, actually. We will just see. But the election psychology is not quite like a analytic, rational mindset, I can say, as a final.
No, not the logical things are happening during the election. Even we were really surprised with the recent election, but we will see how it goes. Only 31 days left now, a month left. So we will closely follow the events that they campaign, and then hopefully the election night we will see who will win the victory. Yes, we came to an end now. Almost an hour we spoke about it, but the agenda was very busy this week. So thank you very much for joining me, and I think your insights were really important. Hopefully our audience enjoyed our discussion as well. If anyone has questions, they can now ask, or otherwise I will make the closure and let Eylül Deniz Yaşar free. Yes, let's wait. I think that's it now. Well, Eylül, is there anything else you would like to add before you go?
No, I think I said much. Thank you so much for having me, Ceren. Wish you luck with the rest of the broadcast.
Thank you so much for joining me again, and hopefully we will do more discussions with you as well. I think it's quite good ones, and hopefully I will see you soon again.
See you.
Bye. Right, we finished this week. I mean, tomorrow is Friday, and I will follow the events closely. What's happening in Turkey? What is the new developments of the incidents that we have been following? Till then, have a lovely weekend, and I will see you next Tuesday. Good night.